Welcome! As we started the 100 Scary Stories series by Nicky Twopence, I've been reminded by all the spooky and otherworldly things that I've experienced in my life. Some of them I've already spoken of, like the Tooth Fairy and the Cemetery Girl. But I've had so many other paranormal experiences over the years. Some of them would absolutely turn you into a believer yourself, if not pull the enamel off of your teeth from sheer fright. For instance, while driving home one night, I picked up a Native American hitchhiker, and while we spoke for a bit about the weather and what he did for work and what tribe he called home, when we got to the town he asked to be let off at, he was no longer in the car. His pack and everything was just gone. I'm glad he didn't have to call a cab, at least. Another time was in the old command post building at RAF Mildenhall. I never bothered them, though. I always wanted to ask them a few different questions. They've been reported by a lot of people, but at night, it's not uncommon to see soldiers in World War II uniforms roaming the halls, studying the pictures on the walls. Apparently, several of them have been identified as either officers that passed on in the bombings there, or as pilots that never came home. That is how vividly they appear. We did exercises every few months there, and when we saw them on night patrol, most people just passed them by and didn't bother reporting them or paying them any mind. After all, they're supposed to be there, right? Besides, most of them will just stare at you if you try to talk to them. And then there's the time I was driving through a Qatari dust storm at night, and I swear I was surrounded by sword-wielding marauders on horseback. But only for a few moments. The storm vanished as soon as I noticed them, and the sky was as clear as could be. I should probably attribute that to a lack of sleep or something, but I remember being pretty wired on caffeine at the time. But none of these compare to the spookiness and just general creepiness of the things I experienced in Japan. If you ever wonder why some of the weirdest stories come out of Japan, trust me, it's for good reason. That little island is absolutely haunted in more ways than one. I was stationed there for 2 years, and after those 2 years, visiting so many shrines, seeing the border of the Sea of Trees, seeing the haunted mansion at Fuji-Q Highlands, and so many other various places like that. Where does one even begin? I mean, growing up next to a cemetery doesn't even compare. All my life, I've trained to sense or recognize the presence of 2 types of energies in some way, either to avoid it or in some way study it. Spiritual energies and ionizing radiation. So many places have so much of both mixed together there. It's insane. One of these sites I visited was the Ōfuna Kannonji. Kannon is the Buddhist goddess of mercy. if you're not familiar with her, think of her like the Virgin Mary. This particular shrine to her was built with bricks from the two nuclear bomb sites from World War II. There were a lot of other shrines all over the place near the main temple, some of which had translations in English, much to my surprise. Apparently, this was a common enough tourist spot that they translated at least the World War II shrines. Just walking up to the mountainside, everything on it was rather intimidating. The reason being, I could almost physically see the energies just flowing off of the mountain itself. It was so thick. It was like there was a barrier against something, and it felt like if we stepped into it, we would just be completely in a different world altogether. And that is exactly what happened. As soon as we set foot from the city street past the marker stones for the path leading onto the property, the noise of the town vanished. The air became more fresh. There was a nice breeze. The birdsong filled the air. And I swear something was watching us. It was the sort of thing you see in movies, but rarely, if ever, experience so drastically in person. And then, because we couldn't find the main way up, we had to take the side path up, which was an incredibly narrow and steep path directly up the side of the mountain. To say it was a rough trail and a bit of a tribulation was putting it lightly. It felt like we had been guided to this path to try and test us, but that could have been my imagination. Still, the feeling of being watched was pretty prevalent. On the way up, there were little, well-maintained shrines. Once we got to the top, it felt like we had finally been welcomed, at least for now, and we were able to enjoy our stay at the shrine. And respectfully enjoy it, we did. Even though we could see that there were quite a few other people visiting the shrine with us, it felt like they were all a mile away and completely separated from us. This I could normally attribute to the way Japanese treat privacy, even in public, but there in that sacred place, it felt like something more. Something special. In fact, even the person running the shrine, the little shop there, felt otherworldly and just not altogether there. I bought a bust of Cannon. I took lots of pictures. I prayed at several of the shrines, most notably the one I remember the most, the one with the Hiroshima flame. I thanked the spirits there. And when we left, after a full day there, my friend and I, we were both exhausted, but strangely energized. And to this day, I thank my lucky stars that I was able to have such a wonderful and amazing experience at such an amazing shrine full of such wonderful and amazing spiritual energy. There are a lot of shrines and spots in Japan that are haunted for negative reasons. This one, thankfully, is, I wouldn't say haunted, but it's got a lot of good spiritual energy, possibly haunted for a good reason. And it is a wonderful place if you ever get the chance to go.